we were hoping to get together people from different places and different organizations so we could be kind of a funnel for all of that.
If we're getting people to where they want to be, where they're going to make the most difference, like that's totally
yes,
fine.
Exactly.
We're fine with that.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to Team Lowell, a video series to help people get connected with progressive organizations around the city of Lowell. My name is Ryan and I'll be your host. And I'm here today with Chris Offerman and Marissa Dupont of Solidarity Lowell. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So I'm pretty new to the organization and I'm still learning about it. And I think there are a lot of people who could also benefit from learning about the ins and outs of Solidarity Lowell. So I have a few questions for you. And the first one is just, could you give me a little background on some of the history of the organization, kind of what are its goals, etc.?
Sure. So in 2015, yes, 2016, whenever Trump got elected. Yeah.
2016, just about 8 years ago.
Yeah. So when Trump got elected, right after the election, there was a group called Safety Pin Lowell. It was a Facebook group, and they organized a rally, and what followed was the first meeting of what would become Solidarity Lowell. And yeah, Chris and I and quite a few other folks who were on the coordinating committee were all at that meeting. And they made like goals for the group at that time, and a few different committees were formed, like the rapid response team. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else happened. I mean, that was really the thing that started it, though.
Yeah, one of the things that brought me in, and a couple of others that I know of, is that we were way before that involved in the peace movement when the Iraq War started. We were holding weekly peace vigils and meetings, and it was actually an organization, a Greater Lowell for Peace and Justice. After that kind of petered out, some of us stayed in touch, and some of those were the main organizers of that rally. That's how I heard about it. So Lynn and Darcy I'd been in touch with. Mm-hmm. They set up basically this rally in front of City Hall.
Yep.
And I said, okay, fine. Because we all felt after the election like, no, this is wrong. We need to do something.
Yeah.
We can't just sit here and accept it as what it is.
Yeah.
We need to do something.
Yeah.
And that's where we went. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so I didn't realize it was that recent. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels recent.
Recent-ish. Yeah.
So I guess my next question, how does the org fit into the progressive ecosystem in Massachusetts? So I know there's like a relationship with Progressive Mass. Mm-hmm. Could you speak to that at all?
So we're a chapter of Progressive Mass, and that started not long after the group began, maybe like 6 months or so. Different organizations were sort of, I don't know if we were approaching them or vice versa, or maybe both, but different organizations were out. Like Jobs with Justice came to a couple of our meetings, and we were thinking about becoming a chapter of that, but we decided that wasn't really the right fit. And then Progressive Mass did a presentation. A couple of folks came from them there, and they were fantastic. And we were like, yeah, this is where we want to be. And so, yeah, we agreed to become a chapter at that point. And now, we do stuff with them. Obviously it's great because like Jonathan Cohn is the rock star of Massachusetts politics. And he gives us all the information we could possibly want about all of the legislation, all of the ballot initiatives, all the people who are running. He runs the scorecard, Progressive Mass scorecard, which scores different politicians based on their how progressive they are, what they voted on. So that gives us access to a lot of that. And then there's also resources, like there's chapter retreats, chapter leader retreats, chapter leader meetings that are monthly, but there's two anyway. So that's Yeah, it's been really, really, really helpful in terms of like state level politics. Obviously, not as helpful with local because we tell them what's going on locally.
Yes.
But it's good.
It also helps us, I think, in a sense that other nearby towns also have chapters that belong to Progressive Mass. So through that, we are in much closer contact with chapters in Westford, in Andover, in Littleton.
I think Bill Rick is starting to.
Oh yeah, Bill Rick is?
I think so. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Next thing will be Drake-it.
That'll never happen, but we'll see.
but that way we are kind of interconnected. We're just not standing by ourselves in Lowell. We're interconnected with nearby chapters.
Yeah.
We often work together on initiatives to help each other out. We go to each other's rallies.
Yeah.
It forms a wider community, which is always helpful to get different input, different ideas.
Yeah. We've done a lot of events with Indivisible Westford, which is also a chapter of Progressive Mass. And then recently we've been doing more with the Lowell Democratic City Committee, which is fantastic.
We're also connected with other organizations that are not necessarily part of Progressive Mass, but they are going for the same goals or overlapping goals, like Merrimack Valley Project.
Yes.
Right.
And like 350 Mass, which is mostly environmental.
Yeah.
But we have so many overlapping fields that where we advocate for the same thing that very often we do things jointly.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful to have people from other organizations pitch in and help out with that. So there's more of us doing the same thing.
Yeah, like a big goal of ours is environmental justice, but we don't really have to do any research on that at all because John Grossman from 350 Mass just comes to our meetings and he updates us on everything that's going on there, and so we can help him out. And then it's it's like that with a few different Merrimack Valley Project. I'm on the board with that, so I bring back information from what's going on with them.
But really, it makes sense because from the beginning we didn't want to be a one-issue organization. Our goal was to interact with as many existing organizations as possible,
yes,
so that we didn't have to reinvent things that were already being done. And we were hoping to get together people from different places and different organizations, so we could be kind of a funnel for all of that. That was my understanding at the time.
Definitely. Yep.
It sounds like to people who are interested in maybe one of those issues, like climate or something, a lot of people who are interested in that are also interested in other progressive issues. And so being able to connect people, make sure you have relationships, and then help get people aware of what's already going on.
Yeah, and like for folks who are more like, there have been a few people who have come to like a Solidarity Lowell meeting and then they've ended up just like being really involved in like 350 Mass or one of the other organizations, and like maybe they come to our meetings every now and then, but it's like fine, like if we're getting people to where they want to be, where they're going to make the most difference, like that's totally fine.
Yes, exactly.
We're fine with that.
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so we have an idea of the relationship with Progressive Mass. There's also an important note that I know you wanted to speak to, which was the tax status between a 501c3 and a 501c4. And I wonder if you could speak to the benefits of a 501c4 and what it's designed to do.
Sure. So with a 501c3, you're a nonprofit, and obviously you can apply for different governmental benefits, but you are not allowed to endorse in any race, in any political race, and you're not allowed to fundraise for any political race. Whereas with a 501c4, you are allowed to endorse and you are allowed to fundraise. So that's a big deal for us, especially here in Lowell, because there are so many nonprofits that are 501c3 and they can't endorse. And so the nice thing about what we've been able to do is like, so for example, I'm going to do this without saying the organization's name. When we have to come up with questions for the school committee, that's not really our expertise. So we talked to another one of the groups here that is big into that and help them come up with the questions that, we work together to come up with the questions that we ask during our endorsement process and during our candidate forums. And so that's been very helpful. And Progressive Mass does help us with some money, but for the most part, the only money we have is what's in the donation box.
So we should say that we are neither a 501c3 or 4.
We're sort of, but not.
Well, we're sort of, but only because we're a chapter of Progressive Mass.
Yes.
But for ourselves, we're actually neither.
Yeah.
We're none. We're just a group of citizens who do things. We're not officially registered anywhere.
Yep.
We don't exist officially in any organization.
We just have a website.
We just have a website and a group of people, but it does enable us to endorse if we want to.
Yes.
Without having to consider what the tax applications might be.
Yes, exactly.
That's a pretty big deal to be able to endorse. That was one way that I was able to find the Tara Hong campaign, and I ended up volunteering with that because both your endorsement and Progressive Mass in general and a few other orgs. But and I think that can direct people to say, oh, this aligns with the values of organizations that I agree with. And that can direct a lot of volunteers toward that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's, we try to, as soon as we endorse, we really try to get as much momentum to those candidates as possible.
That actually reminds me, because you're mentioning a lot of organizations you partner with, and a lot of them have like a single issue that they work on. And when we're talking about the word progressive and kind of defining what is progressive, I'm wondering for Solidarity Lowell, what are the issues? Like, you're a multi-issue org, so what are some of the issues? You have climate. What other things?
I think it's right in our bylaws, in our
but
mission statement.
Yeah.
Our mission statement.
So on our mission statement, civil justice, economic justice, environmental justice, peace, racial justice, and sexuality and gender justice. Those are the big ones that are on the mission statement. But right now, the two biggest issues, though, are the unhoused and affordable housing as one issue, and then election, getting people to register to vote and to vote, for, initially it was the progressive candidates for the primary, and now it's obviously Kamala Harris.
But when we first got started, there was a lot more focus on immigrant rights because the Trump administration was cracking down on immigrants from all sides.
Yes.
And that's why I became especially interested, because being an immigrant myself, I had a deeper understanding of what's involved in immigration and how hard it is to begin with, and to be cracking down on people that are coming here just because they're from elsewhere,
right?
Which really everybody in this country is from elsewhere.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, we did a lot about immigration rights, immigrant rights.
The Safe Communities Act was a really big
Safe Communities Act
for
was
us.
a big thing.
And the driver's license bill.
Yes, the driver's license bill, which passed.
Yes,
when was it?
Both of those.
2 years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that the ballot initiative?
Yes, the ballot initiative. We did a lot of work for that one, standing out, advocating for that one.
Getting ballot signatures. Yeah.
All of that, yes.
All right, so we kind of spoke about the values of the organization and what the activities surrounding those values are. I'm also interested for you as a person, like what draws you to this organization, to this work? I know, Chris, you spoke a bit about your experience moving to the U.S. and how that informed your lens, but I'd love to hear more.
Well, that was certainly part of it. I didn't usually, or in the beginning, I didn't pay much attention to the fact that I was an immigrant and there was a problem with immigration, because for most of my time in this country, there actually wasn't a problem with immigration. But when the Trump administration started to crack down on immigrants, that's when I felt almost like personally attacked, because, they were painted it with a very broad brush that all immigrants are bad and should be deported. And I was like, no, I'm an immigrant, I'm not that bad, and I certainly don't want to be deported, right? And that's when I became active in that particular section of the organization. But it goes really much further back in terms of what I said before, that I was involved with the anti-war or peace movement, Greater Lowell for Peace and Justice. And that's really where I came from in my political engagement, from the peace movement. I'm going back to the Stone Ages here. when I was still in, well, if I get too long, cut me off. I tend to get too long. But when I was still in Germany, I was actually a member of Amnesty International.
Oh, okay.
And we did a lot of work there for individual prisoners of conscience, as they were called at the time, in different countries. So that kind of informed my understanding that in my country you could speak up, but you can't do that everywhere. But it should be a basic right of free speech, but not everybody has that. So I started with free speech, advocating for that. And then the peace section comes in, again, informed by my growing up in post-World War II Germany, that I saw the aftermath of the war and what it does to a country, and that very much ingrained in all of my generation, and hopefully the following generations, that a war is really not a good solution to anything. We should avoid it at all costs. I understand it's not always avoidable, but from a civilian point of view, and those are the ones that are most impacted by a war, usually, that's a no, never again kind of thing. So when the Iraq War broke out, it was like, yeah, okay, there are soldiers on the front line, but we're bombing residences. We're bombing places where there is families living, and they will be now living in a bombed out shell of a building. And that is not right. And that's why I got involved in the peace movement, in the End the Iraq War movement. And that's then led me eventually, through my connection to the friendships I had made at that time to several people, led me to Solidarity Lowell. So it's a kind of combination of things. Peace movement, immigration, and I guess social justice really encompasses all of that. It encompasses free speech, it encompasses safety, you as a person, in whatever situation you might be that on a personal level or be that on a national level, that should be a basic human right. So I'm coming from the basic human rights that should be implemented and should be guaranteed for every person. Yes. And that's where I'm at.
For me, it's been... So when I was a kid, I was fascinated by World War II and specifically the Holocaust, because I could not wrap my head around how someone could be that evil and how those things could happen. And so my way of dealing with it was to read as much about the Holocaust as I possibly could. And a lot of that sort of, and I read some like fiction books, but it made me sort of say in the back of my mind, like, if something like this was to happen, I would want to be one of the ones who was doing the right thing, who was helping people, instead of, on the other side, or standing around, not doing anything and not helping. And so once it became clear what was going on with Trump and what he was putting forth, it was just straight up fascism. As soon as the Safety Pin Lowell group at the time, as soon as that started, I got on that, signed up for that group, and I was like, no, I'm not sitting back while this happens. I'm not just, no, like, we're going to fight against this. And so it was, at least I felt like I was doing something. I might have gone a little overboard sometimes, but yeah, it's been, at least there's some little thing that I can do to fight against this, even if it is just on a local level.
If there was ever a time to go overboard, yeah. I think that was the time when to go overboard.
Yeah.
I think many of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, how do you balance for yourself, fulfilling a sense of purpose and also taking care of yourself, and that's something I think about too.
There's been some struggles there, but
there has been, but actually to me it kind of wraps together.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't, the same thing you just said, I couldn't just be standing back and not do anything.
Exactly.
That would personally harm me.
Yep.
Because it would harm my conscience.
Yep.
And I couldn't do that. So becoming active in advocating for certain goals and for certain impacted populations is in line with my values, and it actually makes me feel better.
Yeah, same.
So I want to pick up with that point, because I think there are a lot of people maybe in the city of Lowell who are feeling similarly, like they feel like they need to do something. And I want to kind of turn the conversation toward what are some of the concrete ways within Solidarity Lowell that people can get involved?
I mean, the first thing is you can just join the mailing list. That's a big thing. And you can do that on the website. And when you join the mailing list, once a week you will get the Rapid Response Team update, which includes action items, events, all kinds of things, mostly in the local area, but also at the state and sometimes the national level, of things that you can do and ways to get involved in the area. And it's not just stuff that we do. It's there's a whole bunch, like a lot of us are really into like going to like postcarding because it's really fun, because it's a social thing while you're sitting there and you're writing your postcards, and it's great. So like there's a whole list of different postcard events in the area, as well as like if there's something notable that's happening at the city council, we'll make sure to put that in there. And then also like our normal events, like our general meetings, and then also, which are once a month, the fourth Sunday of the month usually. And then also we do Demonstrate, Dine, and Discuss, which is usually once a month, but it's been every other right now. But that is, where we stand out.
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah. We stand out at the island in front of City Hall, the Loudon Whitney Memorial. And there's a different topic. Well, sometimes it's the same, but usually it's a different topic every month. So people, will come and make signs or bring their signs and stand out for an hour. And then we choose a local restaurant to go and eat at. And then we discuss, which is usually we're supposed to have like a topic, and we might talk about that for a couple seconds, and then everyone just talks about whatever. But it's nice.
That's good, because I think like just being in community with people is also equally important.
Yes,
right?
Agreed.
Being in community with food.
Yes.
Oh, that's it.
Yes, indeed.
That's why the dine,
Yep.
Demonstrate, Dine, and Discuss.
And it's also been a good excuse to try new restaurants.
Yes.
We have a ton of really good restaurants, and and the ones that are not good turn over pretty quickly. So once there's something new, it's like, quick, get in there and see if it's good.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. There's other stuff too,
So
but
there's some committees, right?
Yes. Not so many right now because so when the group first started, there was, I don't even know how many, there was a bunch. There was a book club, there was an art action group, there was the rapid response team, there was, I don't know, some other things. But now it's basically, so we have an elections committee sort of, because it got down to one person and we were like, well, that's not really a committee. So the coordinating committee was like, we'll just help out with that. And then like the rapid response team is a few people. And like Chris was saying, the immigrant rights committee is kind of,
on hold right now, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because we don't right now have to be concerned about immigrant rights to that extent. Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. But
just get out to vote.
Yes, exactly.
But I think there's one important thing actually to add, because we've been referring a few times to the coordinating committee.
Oh, yeah.
I've been asked many times, so who's the president of Solidarity Lowell? And the answer is there is no such thing. We, from the beginning, intentionally decided that there will not be a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, that there will be a committee of between 5 and 10 people, something like that.
Yep.
And we will make consensus decisions.
I see.
It all works very much on consensus. If I have an idea of something I want to do, we have a discussion list. I throw out the topic on the discussion list. I have to get at least a quorum of the coordinating committee to agree with me before I can do it. It sometimes is a little more convoluted than having a president who tells you what to do, but it's a much more democratic approach. and it leads to more buy-in. If out of the, what do we have right now? 8 people, right? 9. If
Yeah.
out of the 9 people, 5 people at a minimum agree with, yes, we should do this action, then they have bought into, we should do this action. So then they are technically involved or supposed to be involved in making it happen. So it, to my understanding, it works much better to keep it on it's a group decision, and that's how we always go about things.
Yeah, and not one person like gets targeted for whatever,
That
not
too.
one person is the spokesperson for everybody. It's all of us, which it's been really great because some of us are more comfortable with being more forward, like with the press or whatever, and then others are just not. Some people like moderating the meetings, some people don't. Some people are comfortable with the technology part of it, some people are not.
Some people hate taking notes.
Right.
That would be me.
Yeah. So it's good because we do try to encourage everybody to do all of the different roles, like in the meetings and all of the other things that we do. But yeah, for the most part, we're able to kind of focus on our strengths and kind of divide and conquer, where it's not like any one person has to, hold all the weight.
Right. And that distributes, that's a very good point. It distributes the weight.
Yep.
Also doesn't wear one, it prevents burnout a little more.
Yeah.
And it's still the danger of getting burnt out by doing this all the time. But if there was one person that had to make all the decisions and do everything, it would be a much higher danger of burnout for that. So we kind of distribute the weight on 9 shoulders right now, which makes it a lot easier on everybody.
And if someone has to step back, it allows them, and we tell everybody in the coordinating committee, if you need to, if this is too much, if you need to take a break, do not push yourself. Like, we don't want anyone like pushing themselves and getting sick and all of that. No, like, take a break. If you normally go on vacation with your family, go on vacation with your family.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to drop everything and only do this.
Right.
Like, that's not
because
healthy.
there are 8 other people
Yep.
that will back you up.
Yep.
And do the things that you usually do.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to transition toward our closing here.
Okay.
If you could explain specifically where people can go to learn more, like what can people do to take like the first step to get involved?
Sure. So solidaritylowell.com, that's our website. You can sign up for the mailing list there. We're also on Facebook. There is a page and a group. The difference is the page is public facing. There's not really any discussion. It's just like our major meetings. You'll find out about them there. The group is where the discussions take place. There's a lot more conversation going. There's a lot more, like, a lot of folks from other groups post in there about their events too. So it's a great way to find out about things. And then you'll also hear about our special events, like I said, Demonstrate, Dine, and Discuss, the postcarding, and other stuff that's going on, anything special that's happening. And then, of course, we're on Twitter. I refuse to acknowledge Elon Musk, and Facebook, Twitter, and what's the other one? Threads. Thank you. And YouTube and Instagram. Yeah. So and YouTube, our meetings are recorded and we post them on YouTube, and then they are also being posted to LTC, and hopefully we will have a time slot very soon.
Perfect. Well, Chris, Marissa, thank you for coming to speak with me today in my humble apartment.
This is wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It feels good to be around people who care. So thank you for being here.
Likewise.
Thank you.